This bathroom that we're fixing to tile, we want to make a curbless tile shower. It's over wood. We've kind of got our subfloor cut out of the way of where the foam pan is going to sit. If I bring the camera angle down, it's about 1/4 inch higher, the pan is, than the subfloor. And so what we're going to do, if you want to lift the pan out of the way, we're going to sister some 2x4s along the edge of these floor joists. It is 2x6 floor joist, which isn't quite not common. Normally you'll encounter 2x10s or 2x8s at least. These are only about 7 feet apart. And so, or there's a beam here, and then about 7 feet to the other side is a beam. You can span a 2x6 a little over 8 feet before you get beyond deflection. So we got plenty of strength here. And then when we add the 2x4s along to the edge, that's just going to give us a little bit stronger floor anyway. But what we're going to do is we're going to take and cut 2x4s and mount them to the sides of the floor joists. We're going to cut the top of the floor joist off just a little bit to make up for that 1/4 inch that we need. And then we're going to cut strips of plywood to go in between these 3 joist bays. And that is what's going to support our pan when we're all done. So we can't put the pan directly over these floor joists. It has to be fully supported with plywood underneath. And then you can see we still have to locate our shower drain as well. So we'll get started doing all that and get going.
So for this, we're going to just try to do a little voiceover explaining what we're doing. Our shower pan is a little over 1 inch thick. The subfloor is 3/4 inch thick. And so we're going to have to cut the top of our floor joist off just a little bit, about 3/8 of an inch. We're going to go on and take it down just barely over 3/8 of an inch to make sure that when we're done cutting the floor joists off, we don't have to cut it again. With sistering the 2x4s alongside, the little bit that we're taking off the top is going to definitely be strengthened up again because of those 2x4s that we're going to sister on. We're going to start measuring down from the top of the subfloor to the height that we want the sistered floor joists to be. In this case, it's the thickness of our pan plus 3/4 inch. And so that way when we put the 3/4 inch plywood strips on top of our sistered 2x4s, it ends up below the top of our subfloor, that height difference. And so our pan is 1 1/8 inch thick. We're actually only going down 1 inch because we're going to put detra outside of the shower, and that's 1/8 of an inch thick. And so taking into account the 1/8 inch detra, that just makes the pan 1 inch. And so that's an easy thing for us to do there. We're just using 3-inch screws to attach the 2x4s alongside the floor joists. Once we get the 2x4s on, we have the plywood strips cut, and then we'll start dry laying those in place as well. And then from there, it's going to have a few minor adjustments to get the sister joists and everything back true and level. And then we'll still have to locate the drain coming up after that. But the first thing we want to do is get the as much of the floor in place as we can before we start locating the shower drain. So we've got all the plywood strips cut. You can see that we're dry laying the pan back in place again. We're going to trace out where the plywood gets cut for the drain. You can also see the little bit of gap along the 2x4 walls. It's gapped on both sides. That's to allow our Curdy board, when that gets installed, to go on and come down behind the shower pan. And so we've accounted for that. That's why it's a little loose. We've got our drain location marked. We'll go on and start drilling a hole for that. We'll pull the plywood back up, and then we'll start locating our plumbing drain to hit the center of that hole. And so we're also doing one final check to make sure here that the plywood does stay nice and true across all three pieces. That way when we mud the pan in place, it'll be fully supported without a lot of effort. And you can kind of see that the floor joists are just about 1/8 of an inch below the top of the plywood, and so that'll just get filled with thin set mortar when we start to set our shower pan. So we'll get this drain cut out of the way. We're gonna have to make the hole a little bit bigger. My hole saw wasn't quite big enough, and so we really do like the Milwaukee cordless tools. The hacksaw right there is just awesome. And so if you don't have one, look into getting some Milwaukee stuff. It's pretty slick. When it comes to doing drain line, we always use the purple primer and just regular PVC glue. We'll dry fit everything using a tape measure to measure off from the walls to the center of where the drain goes. Once we get all of that done and it's dry fitted and it fits and everything looks good, we'll take a pencil and mark across the fittings. That way we can pull it all back apart, glue or cleaner and glue it all together, and just simply line our pencil marks back up to make sure that our drain ends up back where we want it. A lot of times while we're doing that, we'll kind of glue part of it and then go on and dry fit it back and make sure we haven't adjusted anything so that everything stays lined up where we want it to be. One thing I do like about the Schluter drain is that there is some lateral movement on the drain. So if we get the drain off a little bit, less than like 1/4 or 3/8 of an inch, there's some adjustment on the finished side of the floor, so it's not that big of a deal. But we do try to keep everything pretty well as centered perfectly as we can, just because it helps make the final tile installation that much easier. We are finishing up here. Everything is going to be glued in place. The next video that we're going to do will show how we install the Detra in the bathroom floor, and then we'll start getting our shower pan figured out there as well to get it installed. So be sure to watch part 2 coming up. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click the subscribe button. Don't forget to ring the bell to keep updated with our latest videos. Also be sure to check out the next suggested video that's going to pop up as well. Thank you very much for watching.